Mike Wilson from the Knoxville News Sentinel coming on at 9 o'clock. Joe Rexrode, how we doing? What's going on this fine fall-like Tuesday morning? It's a little cold this morning.
Yeah, not doing very well. Probably going to be crappy this show, so just want you to be just ready for that.
I'll bring my egg
and I got screwed over in my fantasy draft, and I typed out the F word probably more times than I've typed out the F word in that short a period of time in my entire life. Other than that, great.
I feel like there's some shenanigans that's going on in this league. You must have really made an impact on these people in the Titans Media League last year because they're changing draft times to try to get you off your game. Then all of a sudden the draft starts and they're messing with the way things go. I mean, you really have landed some blows last year with your dominant victory that you had.
I mean, I must have really got under some people's skin, which is good. But actually, I mean, I should feel good about that. But I've never been I don't know. You tell me, have you ever had auto draft picked for you?
No.
As a setting?
I have not.
Yeah. Okay, well, I did.
What platform do y'all use to draft?
This is ESPN.
Okay.
So, I mean, again, I've done a million ESPN drafts.
Sure.
So I had the second pick. Kaharski had the first pick, and I flipped away for a second, and I flipped back. It was 9 o'clock. Like, okay, here we go. And my pick had been made for me. And I was like, what?
So I know. Okay. So that means the clock didn't even run out. If you were on auto draft, it went from Kaharski's pick to yours, took about a second and a half, and made the pick for you.
Well, maybe. Yeah, I mean, that's possible. I mean, apparently he picked right at the very –
he's ready to go.
Yeah. So then, because, I mean, again, I had a flurry of like, and then, blah, 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 return, blah, blah, return, blah, blah, return, F-bomb, 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 F-bomb. And some of the, there's some people in there that, like I like to scream at anyway. And
sure.
Then there's some level-headed people who are like, well, Kaharski picked right away. Actually, the GM or the commissioner was like, you want me to pause it and start the draft? I'm like, no, let's just do this.
I'm going to win anyway.
You know what I should have done is just gone to bed. Said, you know what? Auto draft my whole team. Good night. And I'll still beat you all, but whatever.
So who did you end up with the second pick?
I got Dalvin Cook.
Okay.
And I probably was going to take Derrick Henry. It's a PPR.
Sure.
Dalvin Cook may end up better, but I just think Derrick Henry's going to have a lot. One thing I realized last night going through this, because I had a chance to take A.J. Brown and did not take him. I don't know if you remember who I took, but I guess that would have been the third round probably.
Yeah.
Like the only thing I'm really confident with in the Titans in terms of fantasy is that Derrick Henry's going to get a lot of touchdowns. I mean,
yeah.
And I think a lot of yards, but it's hard with the pass catchers with the Titans. I don't know. It's just hard to it's hard to project exactly how it's going to go.
I had a draft last night too, and I did not have a third or fourth round pick because of trades made the previous year in an attempt to go for it, which by the way did not work out. But in the fifth round, I got Julio Jones. I don't know what to think about it. Julio in the fifth round, which normally, like, if you get Julio Jones in the fifth round, you're like, oh, my gosh, how'd that happen?
Right. I mean, that's the lowest probably ever.
Right, exactly.
Of his entire career.
But he was there, and there was, a couple of other receivers there and, some on-the-fringe running backs. And I just said, you know what? I'm going to take a chance and say Julio has a big year. And if he does, I look like a genius. If he doesn't, I look stupid for taking him in the fifth round. We'll find out.
Yeah, it's hard. It's just hard to know. I will say that in the little brief window of practice we saw yesterday, I mean, he looks fast. He looks explosive.
Yeah.
He looks he's not restricted by anything. He's not wearing anything. So, starting out here, he looked like Julio Jones to me.
Let's go to our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. Tim from Lewisburg texting in. I hope this happens to Rexrode tomorrow night in our Robby and Rexrode fantasy football draft. So if it happens tomorrow night to you and you're on auto draft, one of two things is happening. Either the conspiracy is really in or you are just struggling over there with your settings before the draft? I think we'll know the answer to that question tomorrow night.
That's the thing. Like, I don't touch my settings, so
I promise I set everyone on normal draft. We are not no auto draft.
That's right.
Joe, so
Can't
I
be
got
blaming
you,
Michelle.
okay?
it's so weird. I mean, yeah. Well, like, sorry, I'm plugging something in before my computer shuts down.
It's a good call.
That was very important. So that's the thing. As a commissioner, you know that if someone was on auto draft, wouldn't that have to be? It would either be picked by me or by the commissioner.
Yeah.
Right. So the commissioner, it's a conspiracy.
Shenanigans.
It's fine. Yeah, it's fine.
Trent texting in. I got screwed also. I did 2 drafts and ended up picking last in both of them. Tough luck of the draw for Trent and Dixon last night.
Picking last can be great.
You can double dip in the snake draft, right?
Yeah.
So you can be last and then be the first and second round. Sometimes I prefer that.
Picking last. Honestly, I don't love. I mean, it depends on the year. You know how it is. Like sometimes there's just like 2 or 3 people, but how many years do you think this is what it is, and then it's totally different anyway. I like the late picks.
I just want to know, like, I know people that have drafted in their fantasy league like 2 weeks ago, and I just don't understand that. Like, what do you do if, I realize it's the NFL and somebody can get hurt at any time. Like, somebody could get hurt that you just drafted yesterday and practiced today. So I get it.
Right.
There's always a risk, but don't you want to minimize that risk as much as possible? Why would you draft 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, draft right before the season.
Yeah. So
as we're doing tomorrow.
Also, we have some fun names on there.
Do we?
The people who've
I guess I need to
registered
do that. Probably need to come up with a name.
Are we on ESPN? Is
Yeah.
that right? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Yeah, well, man, I'm going to – that's the first thing I'm going to look at, the settings.
See if you're on auto draft.
I mean, not that I don't believe Michelle, but,
Maybe I'll switch it right before.
PTSD, yeah.
That's right. Anything in particular you took away from Mike Vrabel yesterday as the Titans begin game week against Arizona? He talked about the right tackle position, obviously asked specifically about Arizona as well and some of the challenges that they bring to the table. Anything in particular stand out from Mike Vrabel at his media availability yesterday?
Not a ton. Yeah, I tried to ask, if David Quessenberry is the right tackle, and he wouldn't commit to that. It does seem like he's the odds-on favorite. Actually, Vrabel made it sound like, because they don't have Nate Davis and Ben Jones back, that maybe, that people are moving around just as they practice.
Yeah.
So I suppose Lamb and Sombrero could get in there, but it just seems like Quessenberry is that guy, and I'm trying to. I was hoping, again, that Jared would show up and ask him about trying to get into a fight with Tom Herman.
Yes.
That did not happen. So, yeah, it wasn't especially eventful with Vrabel. Team captains happening Wednesday. It was
Think Ryan Tannehill be team captain?
I think so.
Kevin Byard?
Tannehill.
Derrick Henry?
Was Derrick Henry a captain last year?
I don't think so. Well, he didn't wear the C. Does that mean anything? They've got a lot of C's floating around out there.
Those guys were actually wearing C's?
At one point, I think.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would think that whether he was or not.
Maybe they've removed that. At one point, captains in the NFL, they wore a C on their jersey.
I've seen it. It seems like it's just team specific.
Yeah.
I've seen some teams do that, but it's not like the NHL where
No.
where
Where
it's
it's
across
everybody.
the board.
Yeah.
I do think Derrick Henry, like if they have 4 captains, probably be Tannehill, Byard, Henry, and gosh, I don't know.
You try to even it out, go 2 on the offensive side, 2 on the defensive side?
If you're not trying to even it out, you could even go with A.J. Brown.
Yeah.
If you are trying to even it out, I don't know. Is Jeffrey Simmons ready for that? I mean, Rashaan Evans talked yesterday, and it was a good reminder of, like, Rashaan Evans has those traits.
Sure.
Like Rashaan, but the problem is, it's just, this may be his last year, and it's just like you have to play at a certain level to get that distinction. But Simmons, possibly. You know, a guy like Bud Dupree is like a captain kind of guy, but he's just brand new. So I guess that'll be interesting. But, yeah, you know, basically Caleb Farley, he's got to work his way into a role. No surprise there. Yeah, I think everybody, including Vrabel, including all the people asking Vrabel questions, ready to see them play.
I would say so at this point. Michelle, what did you think of that Ole Miss Louisville game last night? Turned out pretty well for you.
Listen, L's down. I just tweeted at you all. See, the Ole Miss players are even doing L's down.
Yeah, I saw that.
Is this going to be a thing that gets penalized and stuff? I mean, everybody freaks out about the horns down.
They probably will.
Everyone hates Louisville, so it's fine.
So
a lot of targeting penalties last night.
Yeah, a lot of targeting and just, boy, Louisville, not good.
They are not good.
Joe, you said it right.
Louisville. I'm working on it.
Louisville.
Yeah.
43-24, the final. Ole Miss, the winner last night, with no Lane Kiffin on the sideline. He was doing interviews from Zoom, from his house. So good stuff from Lane Kiffin last night.
Yep. Said, you know, I think he was like, well, maybe I should just get COVID for the whole year.
Yes, those were, I tell you what, the uniform matchup, I liked Louisville's uniforms. Those baby blue Ole Miss uniforms with the light blue helmet, that's good stuff. They looked good last night.
They did.
One mute.
Tell you what, I'll have about 11 today. Yeah, they did. I agree.
Looked very good. When we come back, there are some predictions out there for the Titans, and I've seen a wide range, but there's one in particular that I saw last night that if it transpires, could mean the Titans have one of the greatest seasons in NFL history. We'll get to that coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Do you want to win a pair of tickets to see Stanford versus Vanderbilt at Vanderbilt Stadium on Saturday, September the 18th? Well, if you do, head on over to YouTube and subscribe to the 1025 The Game YouTube page, and you'll enter to win your way into the game. One winner will be chosen on Monday, September the 13th. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 1025 The Game, presented by Volunteer State Bank, conveniently serving Middle Tennessee with 13 locations. Volunteer State Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender. Talking Titans, taking your thoughts on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. And Joe, as you know, it is preview/prediction season in the NFL, with Week 1 underway starting on Thursday night as the Buccaneers host the Dallas Cowboys. And we'll have our very own previews starting today with the AFC North and the NFC North coming up next hour beginning at 7:30. But there's one prediction that's out there from Titans Wire on USA Today that I think, if it comes true, should get Titans fans very, very excited. And, Joe, there's a lot here in this piece on Titans Wire on the USA Today network. Mike Moratis is the author of this article here. And we'll just begin by the first bold prediction from the Titans Wire USA Today crew. Derrick Henry will rush for 2,000 yards. And not only will Derrick Henry rush for 2,000 yards, he will win league MVP. So Derrick Henry, according to this prediction on USA Today, will rush once again for 2,000 yards and will also win the NFL MVP award, which he did last year. Rush for 2,000 yards. He did not quite win the NFL MVP. That's a pretty spicy one right there.
Yeah, that's that's optimistic.
Look, I'm not saying it's crazy or out of the realm of possibility to suggest that he could run for another 2,000 yards.
No, you got another game.
Yeah,
sure.
There's another game.
You got another game. You got a star on the outside to make the offense more difficult to deal with. I've heard some people say, Henry's gonna have a bigger year because of this. I don't think so, but that's not crazy.
The MVP stuff, I don't know. That's the running back position. He'd have to do a whole lot.
Well, if he's past 2 Bills and they are great, then it's possible.
Sure.
I can't remember anything from last year. Who was the captain? Where did he did he have some kind of voting in the MVP?
I think he was like 5th or something, yeah.
Yeah, he got some votes. He got some not first place, but some votes. Yeah, so, okay. That one's fine.
It's all right. The next one on Titans Wire, the Titans will have 3, not 2, but 3 1,000-yard receivers. So A.J. Brown and Julio Jones obviously are 2 of those 3 1,000-yard receivers. The article also mentions Josh Reynolds maybe as a possibility, Anthony Ferkser as a possibility as well. So not only will Derrick Henry rush for 2,000 yards, but the Titans will also have 3 1,000-yard receivers.
So this is bold predictions, of course.
Correct.
So bold predictions, aren't necessarily like, I absolutely believe this is happening, right? I hope not. Like, if all these things happen, like,
we're not even done yet.
Oh, I know, but this is the greatest team in the history of football. But I think if you're going to make a bold prediction like this, then you need to pick the third receiver. So he's saying someone else will just grab 1,000 yards too. That's silly.
Ryan,
Josh Reynolds has barely played in the preseason. Be him or Ferkser. Why can't it be him and Ferkser?
Just have 4.
Yeah.
Well, it also says Ryan Tannehill will break the Titans' single-season passing yards record, which I will tell you, if he has 3 different 1,000-yard receivers, I'm pretty confident he's going to break that record.
That'll easily happen. How many, is the opponent ever getting the ball? So Derrick Henry's getting – are they going to onside kick every time they score?
I don't know.
So Derrick Henry's going to go for 2,300, and Tannehill is going to throw for 4,500. You have 3,000-yard receivers. That's a
lot of offense,
They should be
man.
pretty good. They don't even need a defense.
Well, but luckily, to your point, they're going to have one because the predictions roll on here on Titans Wire. Elijah Molden will win Defensive Rookie of the Year. So Elijah Molden, the selection here to win Defensive Rookie of the Year.
My question to that is, When's the last time a slot corner won Defensive Rookie of the Year? I mean, look, if he's got some pick sixes in him,
Yeah.
Like picks off Patty Mahomes and brings it back or something.
A couple times.
But that's a tall order. That's a tall order.
The Titans will finish top 5 in sacks. So go from 19 sacks a year ago to top 5 in the league in sacks this year.
Okay. I mean, I guess, like, if you score a touchdown every time you have the ball, which this team will do, apparently, then I guess you're going to have teams that are just constantly.
Got to be throwing.
You pin your ears back. They're just throwing all the time.
Yeah.
Okay. It's all adding up. Sure.
And then you
all
factor
makes
in.
sense.
That's right. You factor in those previous 5 bold predictions that have been made, and they lead to this, which I would hope that they would after all 5 of those.
Yeah.
The Titans will win the Super Bowl. That is the final bold prediction from Titans Wire on the USA Today network. The Titans will win the Super Bowl. So
that's the least outrageous prediction of them all.
So when you factor in everything that's been predicted here, Derrick Henry, 2,000 yards and an MVP. The Titans having 3 1,000-yard receivers. Ryan Tannehill breaking the single-season passing yards record for the Titans. Elijah Molden, Defensive Rookie of the Year. And the Titans finishing top 5 in sacks. That leads to the ultimate culmination, Joe Rexrode, of a Titans Super Bowl victory.
Yeah, it's an undefeated team, right? By the way, so the franchise record. So Tannehill has the Titans era record 38 last year, but the franchise 46-90.
That's a tall order.
That's a big number. Warren Moon 91, run and shoot. Yeah, that's a big number. Man, well, hey, you know what? This is the week. This is the time. This is the time for things like this, right? Just totally unbridled enthusiasm. Look at all the things that could go well. And then, like, after the first 3 and out, on offense, and the first 3rd and 12, they give up to Kyler Murray Sunday. Yeah. It's just scrap the season. Yep,
it was. Look, I would say that this is the most optimistic bold prediction or predictions of the Titans that I've seen.
Yeah,
it's going to be hard to top that one.
Well, Super Bowl's optimistic. Henry 2000 optimistic. Tannehill, that's optimistic. The top 5 in sacks, Molden and
3,000 yards
are just so dumb. I mean, come on. But hey,
you don't have a lot of confidence the Titans could get 3 receivers at 1,000 yards?
I mean,
I've got confidence they can get 2.
That's incredible. I think they could get 2, and I still have my doubts. But I could see both of those guys getting there.
I mean, they basically had 2 a year ago. Basically.
Right. Yeah. But no, they're not getting 3. Ferguson's never going to have 1,000 yards in a season. Ferguson's a nice player. I mean, I think he could get like 600 yards.
If they have 3, it's going to be a heck of a season here on this show. There'll be a lot of excited Titans fans.
Yeah, well, hey, I will say that the number 3 receiver on this team, I've said it for a while, like, that's a great job. So if Josh Reynolds is healthy and is the number 3 receiver all year, and by the way, Josh Reynolds yesterday was running well, so that's a good sign for them.
That is.
But he will have some probably some shots, some vertical shots. Make some big plays. But man, I mean, how often are you having the ball for like 44 minutes a game? I mean, you can't do all this stuff. But I like it though.
Let's go to our text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Chad texting in. I've been saying this for months. The bold prediction: the Titans win 7 games at most this season.
Now there's one.
So we've gone from one end to the other.
This is who on the text line?
Chad.
And Chad's a fan of?
I don't know.
I'm going to guess the Colts. Let us know, Chad. 7 games at most. So they're going to be 7-10. Just imagine if that happens.
If they go 7-10?
Yeah.
That would not go well around here. What's the floor? And postseason success, obviously, a different part of the conversation. But regular season wins. What's the floor for Titans fans to be happy? I mean, obviously, it's whatever it takes to
the floor to be happy.
Yeah.
I mean,
they
are Titans
won
fans
11
happy
last year.
Yeah, are they happy at 10-7? Like, does 10-7 win the? I think the floor is winning the division. So I thought, like, if you went 10-7, and let's say the Colts did too, but you beat them in a tiebreaker and you win the division, I think that'd be. But still, I think that'd be acceptable to a fair amount of people. But you're still talking about 7 losing Sundays for a team with this kind of hype.
Yeah,
I think I might answer that 11,
yeah.
11-6. So it's high expectations.
Sure.
Again, it should be.
Absolutely. When we come back, speaking of high expectations, there are more bold predictions on the table, this time coming from ESPN.com, including an interesting piece on the Titans as well from Teron Davenport, friend of the show. We'll get to that coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game, presented by Volunteer State Bank. Got a brand new location in Mount Juliet at 11400 Lebanon Road, Volunteer State Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender. Talking Titans, taking your thoughts on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. Got a texture that says the floor is 9 or 10 wins with the extra game. My guess is 12, and I predicted the last 4 Super Bowls. I don't have the receipts, so don't ask. Go Bears. There you go.
There's a lot to unpack in that text.
Yeah, there is.
I believe you, though.
Ron saying the floor is the AFC Championship game. You got to get there to the very least in my book.
But your question,
we're talking just regular season.
You said regular season only. We're not talking postseason.
Yes. We'll get to the postseason stuff a little bit later in the week when it comes to our season predictions for the NFL. So don't worry, Ron. We'll get you covered on the postseason part of this. But just floor of regular season wins for this Titans team, which, by the way, you look at their schedule. They've got some intriguing games this year. I mean, the first 2, Arizona, Seattle, it's pretty tough. First 2 going outside of your division on going out west of Seattle for the NFC West. Arizona coming here. Got some tough games this year. For
and
the
then
Titans.
the Colts.
And the Colts.
The Colts right after that.
Got the Chiefs coming up on the schedule as well. There's some big time games for the Tennessee Titans this year, including Matthew Stafford and the LA Rams Sunday Night Football.
That's right. You win your division, and you're gonna have a tougher schedule. So, I think I've done it. I guess I need to do it this week again. Go through, game by game, but I feel like 11 is it's a fair expectation.
Especially with the talent they've got on the field. I think that's absolutely a fair expectation. So ESPN.com, we talked about the bold predictions coming from Titans Wire from USA Today in the last segment. This segment, ESPN.com coming out with some bold predictions. We'll start with the Tennessee Titans. Our man Teron Davenport saying his bold prediction on ESPN.com, wide receivers A.J. Brown and Julio Jones will each reach 1,000 receiving yards, and running back Derrick Henry will rush for more than 1,500 yards. So not quite going to 2,000, TD, but 1,500.
Yeah, I think that's a good prediction.
Yes.
It's not outrageous. It's not like super bold, but I think it's achievable, and it would still be impressive.
And TD's breakout candidate for the Titans, Amani Hooker, which I'm very interested to see how Amani Hooker performs this year in the starting safety position. Obviously, Kenny Vaccaro's been in there the last couple of years. Hooker had a good season a year ago coming in as a reserve and, getting some start spot duty every now and then because of injury to Kenny Vaccaro. But a full-time starter this year for Amani Hooker. He's shown that he's got a knack to go find the ball. I'm interested to see what he looks like this year in his first season as the full-time starter back there next to Kevin Byard.
Yeah, so am I. I looked good in camp, and that's good. Vanderbilt is a good example whenever you want to talk about how camp things look. And I know that they're on a totally different plane here than what we're talking about, but it's just with that whole secondary, to me, I feel like they have looked good. They've played well. They've played well daily against this offense, but this offense largely without Julio Jones, A.J. Brown in the field. So DeAndre Hopkins is coming, Those Seattle receivers are coming. I think last year it probably wasn't talked about as much because there were so many other issues. But I think Kenny Vaccaro is one of those guys that just took a little bit of a step back last year, and I think step back in speed. Started to slow down just a little bit. I think you could probably say the same thing about Malcolm Butler last year too. So Amani Hooker, obviously a younger guy coming in there, and it's a great. This is like exactly what you want to do when you're building a football team is find a guy like that in the middle rounds who you can develop, and then he's ready to be a good starter for you. But, yeah, is he going to be a good starter? I don't know. I think that's a good choice by TD, but it's just it's still so up in the air on, what happens on those 17 Sundays.
Let's go back to the text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Got a texter that says, being a Titans fan has taught me to never have high expectations.
Well,
Some ghost of Christmas past.
I love, like, again, when I hear things like this, it's a great reminder. Like, let me tell you something. It could be worse. Appreciate what you have, okay? There are other fan bases in this league that can say that for decades and decades and decades more than you can say that.
Is there any one particular that comes to mind?
Well, yeah, but they're not the only one. By the way, did I get I think I got a Lion last night. Who'd I get? Oh, yeah, I got Jamal Williams. Yeah.
It's not a bad pick.
I got a Lion.
Yeah, there you go.
So, pretty
who doesn't want
that.
You load up on Detroit Lions on your fantasy football team. That's my advice to people in our Robby and Rexrode draft. Get as many Lions as you can.
Well, speaking of the draft, so last night I had a choice of Matt Stafford or Joe Burrow. And I, as my quarterback, and, it was middle rounds. I went, and Brendan's like, you got to get Stafford. I'm like, but they're going to be good. I mean, I think Stafford will have big numbers on that, but Joe Burrow, they're not going to be very good, and he's good.
He's got really good receivers, too.
He's got good receivers. He's going to be throwing all the time. So, anyway,
I
went with Burrow. Well, that's right. Yes.
They can keep him upright this year.
Yeah.
Well, we're not very good at that a year ago. But it's all sorts of bold predictions on this piece by ESPN.com, including the Buffalo Bills winning the AFC. And what they've done here is they've done every writer that covers for their team for ESPN.com have made some bold predictions. So there are multiple, hey, so-and-so's team is going to win the AFC. Like you look on here at the Green Bay part of this, and Rob Domofsky has selected the Packers to win the Super Bowl. So, like, Aaron Rodgers is going out on top, apparently, with a Super Bowl victory. Yeah. I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility.
No. I mean, they're definitely top 5 in the league, right?
Oh, I would say they're top 5, for sure. But I agree with you from what you said yesterday. The NFC, what is there, 2 or 3 teams in the NFC that you feel good about being legitimate Super Bowl contenders?
I mean,
AFC, it's deep, man.
Yeah. I mean, Tampa Bay, Green Bay. I put the Rams there, but not everybody does.
Right.
Actually, I feel like the 49ers are going to have a big comeback this year. You see that so often in the league. You know, the team loses the Super Bowl, and then you have bad luck the next year, but then it's still like roughly the same team that made the Super Bowl 2 years ago. If they're healthy, that defense. So, I guess if you count them as legit, then it's 4. And what does the AFC have that are actual contenders that most people would agree on? Now, that's the thing. The Titans, I would say probably fewer agree on that than think they are contenders.
There was somebody
Peter
on
King, though.
NFL.com the other day that came out with a list that had the Titans 7th in the AFC.
Is that right? So
yeah.
That's a little low. Peter King had them 3rd.
Yeah.
But everyone agrees on the Bills. Everyone agrees on the Chiefs. And then you just have a really good kind of like second tier of any of them could rise up, including the Titans, the Browns, the Ravens. And there's a lot of love for those Chargers.
There is a lot of love for those Chargers, which I'm glad you brought that up because on the list here for the bold predictions on ESPN.com, number 1, Justin Herbert getting a lot of love this year in the preseason. So we'll see whether or not he can live up to that. But the bold prediction from Shelley Smith, who covers the Chargers will make the playoffs and maybe win the division title. What does that mean? Maybe win the division title?
Yeah, that can't be the bold prediction.
No.
The bold prediction is that they're going to shock everyone and beat the Chiefs. Or just don't even mention it. Maybe. No. They're not, by the way. They're not going to.
They're not beating the Chiefs in that division.
Yeah, no.
That's a lot of high expectations for that team. Look, I get it. They've got a decent roster. And I like Justin Herbert. I don't know that I like Justin Herbert to the level that everybody else in the NFL appears to like Justin Herbert, but I think he's a good player. I think he's going to be a good quarterback. But they're a very sexy pick this year to do some damage in the AFC, and I just don't think I'm there yet with the Chargers.
Well, it's funny. We were having this discussion. Teresa Walker and I were having the discussion. on the practice field yesterday about the Chargers, and she's like, like Justin Herbert, you got to show me more. And I do agree. Like Shil Kapadi and some of these people who are bullish on the Chargers. I mean, there are a lot of stats that are like, you look at this, and then like the bad luck stats, the end of game, close game, everything. Like it was astounding that their record was what it was last year.
Yeah.
And some of that was coaching. So I get like they look like that team that's primed for the bounce back, and they have a good roster. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised at all if they make the playoffs, but like, yeah, I think people are talking like 13-4, and I don't know about that. And again, Herbert is, I think he's good. Is he great? I'm not
willing to go there yet.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not either.
When we come back, we'll continue to react to this list on ESPN.com, including a couple of really high expectations for two rookie quarterbacks in particular. We'll get to that coming up next. Take your thoughts as well on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Don't miss the 2021 Middle Tennessee Highland Games and Celtic Festival Saturday, September the 11th at Percy Warner Park. A fun-filled day full of Celtic games, children's activities, Celtic music, food, Scottish and Irish dancers, local and regional vendors, and much more. Tickets are on sale now, and you can visit mid10games.com for more details. That's mid10games.com for more details. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game, brought to you by Volunteer State Bank, conveniently serving Middle Tennessee with 13 locations. Member FDIC, equal housing lender. Taking your thoughts on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. So obviously, Joe, last week here on the show, we talked about the New England Patriots and their decision to move on from Cam Newton. Mac Jones will be the starting quarterback for the Patriots, and the bold prediction from ESPN.com for the Patriots is Mac Jones will win Offensive Rookie of the Year. Offensive Rookie of the Year from Mac Jones. And we know this coming from Mike Reese, who covers the Patriots for ESPN.com. We know the Patriots, they're going to run the ball a lot this year. There's going to be a lot of play action involved. They've got the two tight ends that they brought in with Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith. So it's not going to look like your typical NFL modern-day offense with wide receivers streaking all the way down the field all the time. But Mac Jones, he looked good in the preseason. Bold prediction is that he will win Offensive Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, I could buy that. You just automatically, for those awards, look at quarterbacks first. I think Trevor Lawrence will have a lot to say about that.
I do too.
But I think if Mac Jones is good and the Patriots make the playoffs, I think that Trevor Lawrence could have way bigger numbers and Mac Jones could still edge him out for that. That will be interesting because I do think Trevor Lawrence will have big numbers because, again, bad team, good player, pretty good receivers. He's going to be throwing a lot against soft zone defenses in a lot of fourth quarters. So he's going to have numbers. And then, if they pull off a couple upsets, say against the Titans or somebody, that'll help his case. The number one pick, I think, has an edge already because there's so much attention on the number one pick. But I don't think that's a bad thought. Again, Patriots to me would have to make the playoffs, and they could. Good D, loaded up at tight end.
Yes, they are.
I almost took both Jonnu and Hunter Henry. I didn't take either one of them, but I'm thinking of everything in terms of fantasy drafting now, since it's fresh in my brain.
I'll give you a dark horse candidate, and I don't know how dark horse this guy is because everybody knows he's really good. But I think Najee Harris is going to get used a lot in the Pittsburgh offense this year.
Sure.
And, obviously it's a quarterback-driven league, and the quarterbacks are the favorites for these awards, but I wouldn't be surprised to see Harris have a pretty big year for Pittsburgh.
He's a great non-quarterback candidate. And by the way, boy, did he go high in our draft.
Oh, yeah. Went high in mine, too.
Which, hey, he's coming in, and we saw him play last year.
He's unbelievable.
The guy is really good. Yeah, that's a good pick. I'm trying to think of other non-QB. You got Jamar Chase.
Yeah.
Potentially, which would be great for me. So
Little Jalen Waddle.
Yeah. You got Waddle.
Devontae
Smith. Any of those guys could.
We've named a lot of Alabama players so far.
Yes, who played on the same team together.
Yes, they
too,
did.
by the way. So, but yeah, I think Mac Jones. I actually watched more New England Patriots preseason football than I would have cared to watch, but I thought he was pretty good.
Our buddy Michael DeRocco, who covers the Jags for ESPN.com, his bold prediction is Trevor Lawrence will set the rookie passing touchdown record. So the rookie passing touchdown record for Trevor Lawrence. And look, they're going to throw the ball out. And you know what? I believe it's right at 30, maybe 31. There's only been, I think, one that's gotten to 30 as a rookie.
Well, that's not a bad pick because, again, he's good. They do have pretty good receivers.
It was actually Justin Herbert last season with 31.
Okay.
There you go.
2 a game. A little less than 2 a game, and you can break the record. they're going to be in a lot of games, I think, where they're losing. Also, what about Kyle Pitts as a offensive rookie of the year
I'd say that's a
possibility?
That could happen.
I mean, it's probably going to be quarterback. If Justin Fields comes in week 3, which is about as late as it should be, that could be fun. That could be interesting.
But we know how well that organization handles quarterbacks, so
Yeah,
I'm sure it'll be by week 3.
yeah, exactly. Zach Wilson. If the Jets are not putrid, not just abysmal, and he has big numbers. I mean, he is playing in New York.
Yeah.
He is throwing to Corey Davis.
Elijah Moore.
So, but I didn't tell you, by the way, who I drafted, who I will draft every chance I get.
Rondale?
You better believe it. And what about him? What
round did you get Rondale Moore in?
It was pretty late.
Okay.
Yeah, it was probably, we had 16 rounds. It was probably the 13th or 14th
That's
round.
pretty good.
But I was like, yeah, I'll take a flyer on Rondale Moore. I like taking flyers on rookies late in drafts.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah. So let's not exclude Rondale from this discussion.
That's right. We can't do that. The Cowboys one was very interesting to me. And this is coming from Todd Archer, who covers the Cowboys for ESPN.com. His bold prediction is Ezekiel Elliott will lead the NFL in rushing. Ezekiel Elliott leading the NFL in rushing. Obviously, Derrick Henry has led the league in rushing the last couple of years. Dalvin Cook was very good a year ago as well. Zeke, not so much since he signed that new deal down there in Dallas. The bold prediction is Ezekiel Elliott will lead the NFL in rushing.
That would be great for the Cowboys. That would be huge for them because, one, it means he's healthy all year, means he's got his game back, and it also probably means that they are good. I mean, that would give them balance in their offense, and I love their passing. I love their pass catchers, so I don't see it happening.
He ran for 979 yards last year.
Yeah.
So he was over 1,000 yards behind Derrick Henry last year.
Yeah.
I mean, it certainly qualifies, I think, as a bold prediction.
That's a bold prediction. Yeah. But it is one of those bold predictions that, I mean, who knows? When DeMarco Murray came in here in 2016, he was washed. No one thought much of that. I mean, around here, I think people did, but it was like, look at what happened in Philly. His best days are behind him, and he was the best back in the league until he got hurt that year.
Sure.
And he still played, but he was the best back in the league. So Zeke's probably got some juice left.
Well, the thing is, he's only like 26.
Right.
So he's not that old.
But again, in running back years, that's
a lot of carries.
Yeah, in running back years, that's 38. But yeah, a lot of tread off the tires.
Well, I mean, the biggest thing with him is the yards per attempt just keep going down. Like when he first came in, 5.1 yards per attempt. It's pretty good. You can go win a lot of football games that way. Last year it was at 4. He's all the way down to 4. So it continues to kind of go the wrong way. I would be concerned about that from Ezekiel Elliott. Now, he's a big part of the passing game too. And, the Cowboys, with the defense they have, they're probably going to be throwing the ball a lot, especially when you have Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb too. So I don't know from a sheer volume standpoint if he's going to get enough carries. I mean, he only had 244 carries last year in 15 games.
I don't see how he even comes close unless the defense is way better.
Exactly.
And maybe it will be. I mean, it can't be
a whole lot worse.
I mean, it's just, look, the Cowboys are, if you're in Dallas and you're following that team closely, you're probably seeing a lot of reasons to think that it's just like here. I mean, the Titans, on a daily basis, we talk about it. So there's a lot of, this guy, that guy. Look at, this scene in camp, whatever. Locally, there's reason to think that it'll be better. But around the league, the defense sucks.
Well,
it's the same thing that we do with the Cowboys.
Yeah.
I have no idea. They've done a lot of things to try to address it.
They
know
have
that.
Well, in Pro Football Focus threw out this question, I think last week, and it was with the Vikings. And it was a graphic they flashed up there of Dalvin Cook, Adam Thielen, and Justin Jefferson, and said, is there a better running back 2 receiver combo in the league? And a lot of people were like, well, yeah, the Titans. pretty good with Julio Jones, A.J. Brown, Derrick Henry. But the other team that people kept throwing out there was the Cowboys with Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, Ezekiel Elliott.
Yeah. Well, what about Chubb?
That was in there too.
Beckham,
Landry. Yep.
Drafted Beckham and Peoples-Jones, by the way.
Did you?
Yes.
Okay, it's good.
And Kareem Hunt. I went Browns.
Going heavy on the Browns.
Crazy.
Wow.
Browns crazy.
Did you draft Clowney? Get a couple carries this year?
No individual, deep defensive players.
That's probably good.
But I would have. I would have drafted Vic Beasley if he was available.
That's right. I'm sure you would have. We'll continue to take your thoughts in our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. When we come back, we'll discuss the Tennessee Volunteers, a big matchup coming up on Saturday against Pitt. What should the Vols expect in this game at home coming up at Neyland Stadium on Saturday morning? We'll get to that coming up next. Right now, though, I got to tell you about my friends at FanDuel Sportsbook. And the NFL is back, and FanDuel Sportsbook is celebrating with 40-1 odds on any Week 1 game. And who doesn't want to win $200 on a $5 bet? This is no Hail Mary. It's that simple. New customers get 40-1 odds when you place your first wager, and FanDuel is sports betting made simple. The app is so easy to use. Plus, when you win, you'll get paid in as little as 24 hours. The Titans back on the field this week against Arizona. Maybe that's the way you want to go with the home team at Nissan Stadium. I would take a look at those Green Bay Packers traveling down to Jacksonville to take on New Orleans at that neutral site game as well. A couple of options on the table for you there, but you take it any way you want to take it. FanDuel Sportsbook, the #1 rated sportsbook app in America, and it's very easy to use, safe, and secure as well. So see for yourself why FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. They're always hooking you up with exclusive odds boosts, great promotions, and so much more. So just sign up with promo code ROB, and you can win $200 on a $5 bet. That promo code is ROB. You must be 21 or older and present in Tennessee. New users only. $10 first deposit required. Must wager in designated offer market. A max bonus of $200. Bonus for Tennessee users fulfilled in site credit within 72 hours. Tennessee site credit expires 14 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See full terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Got a gambling problem? Call the Tennessee Red Line at 1-800-889-9789. Welcome back in hour number 2, Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game, presented by Volunteer State Bank. Real people, real solutions right here. Volunteer State Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Michelle Knezovic here with you on this Tuesday morning in Nashville, Tennessee. By the way, happy 18th birthday to my youngest brother, Rhett Stanley. Turning 18 today. Big day.
Rhett.
That's
All
right.
Happy birthday, Rhett.
Happy birthday, Rhett. Cool name, too.
It is a cool name. A little throwback.
That's right.
That's right. 18th birthday today.
Nice.
He's legal.
An adult.
That's right. So congratulations, Rhett. Love you. Hope you have a good birthday.
Very nice.
Taking your thoughts on our text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. Joe, the Tennessee Vols back in action this weekend coming up at 11 a.m. local time here at Neyland Stadium, taking on the Pittsburgh Panthers. And Pittsburgh, a big winner over the weekend, 51-7 against the mighty UMass Minutemen that they took on. 51-7 winners for the Pittsburgh Panthers. So I'm not sure how much we learned about Pittsburgh in the opening game, in the same way that I'm not sure how much we learned about Tennessee in the opening game, playing a truly awful Bowling Green team. Obviously, this is a huge game for Joe Milton, and we'll get more to that coming up here in just a few minutes. But, Joe, you are familiar with Pat Narduzzi and what he brings to the table. What can Tennessee expect in this game against Pittsburgh? What sort of challenges do the Panthers present coming into Neyland Stadium?
Well, again, it starts with, and we are going to have Pat Narduzzi, I believe, at some point this week on the show. And, yeah, I've covered him for many years, and he is a tremendous defensive tactician to the point where – so what we were talking about the Tom Herman-Vrabel thing yesterday, right? Yeah.
Yep.
So the Tom Herman-Vrabel fake fight where Tom Herman's like, "Please hold me back,"
And Vrabel's like, "No,
Yeah.
don't hold him back."
No, really, let him go. But obviously those guys were on those Ohio State staffs of about a decade ago, under Urban Meyer, and at that time Michigan State gave Ohio State fits, and really it was because of Narduzzi, and actually. Talking to a lot of those guys, I didn't really write any of this because it had nothing to do with the story that I was doing. I was doing about the Titans, but they were like, yeah, I mean, basically we copied Narduzzi's defense. Like he had this blitz where somehow you're blitzing like 7 and playing zone behind it.
That's pretty incredible.
Yeah, I mean, but that's what he did. He just would send waves of blitzers from all over the field. That's what he does. That's what he did. That's what Tennessee will see. The Pittsburgh has 97 sacks over the past 2 seasons. That's number 1 in the country. That's what they do. So that's the first thing on the scouting report for Tennessee. And Josh Heupel knows this because Josh Heupel has gone against Narduzzi twice at UCF, beat him pretty soundly the first time with that great team of 2018 that had Mackenzie Milton. And then in 19, I don't know if you remember the Pitt special, but they did like the Philly special.
Oh, yeah.
But called it the Pitt special and beat UCF 35-34. Watch that one in the Swamp press box after a delightful performance by Garantano, Pruitt, and company against the Gators.
Yes, I remember that game.
2 years ago.
That was in the immediate aftermath of the Georgia State and BYU performances as well.
Yes,
Good
it was.
stuff.
Yes. But they turned around after that.
They did.
For a little while. But, yeah, that's what it is. I mean, they are going to blitz. Now, of course, you got 2 pros. On the last 2 teams that led the nation in sacks, well, they also had Rashad Weaver and Patrick Jones.
Yes.
And those guys are now in the league. So, and their best defensive end is a question for this week, too. So, he did not play against UMass. But another thing about Pitt this year is that they have like an NFL prospect at quarterback in Kenny Pickett, and a guy who, a lot of people had him like about a middle round guy if he went out last year. He decided to come back. He's got some good receivers. So it's an all around, solid team. But that's, where, the appealing matchup here is Pittsburgh's pressure, Pittsburgh's aggression on deep. Narduzzi is a huge press coverage guy. He's really not a man. People think it's man, but they play quarters primarily, and so that's cover 4, and that basically means that those 4 guys have the deep part of the field split up. So it looks like man, and it's kind of like a hybrid zone man thing, but it's heavily quarters, cover 4, with, again, a lot of exotic blitzes. I mean, he'll bring everybody. So Joe Milton this week is just not going to be able to stand and look around and wave people around.
Pat the ball.
Right. Now it's gonna be quick decisions. And Pitt will be ready for the tempo, but the tempo's got to be utilized because that's what they do, and when they do it well, that's what one thing I was impressed with last week was like they operated fast and did it that well.
Pittsburgh on the FanDuel Sportsbook, 3.5-point favorites in this game at Tennessee. So I believe it started lower than that. Pittsburgh now up to 3.5-point favorites against Tennessee in this game.
The only whenever something like that, see, like when money goes on Pittsburgh or something like this, I'm always a little bit surprised just because, like, Tennessee has such a bigger fan base. You know what I mean?
Well, it could be the Tennessee fans.
Well, I suppose that's true. Well, you have a point there. That could be.
It could be.
Could be Big Orange Mac, right?
It could be Big Orange Mac leading the way on the
Orange Mac
FanDuel
just
Sportsbook.
bracing for that blistering of his butt. Yes.
That's right. Are you surprised that Pittsburgh's a 3.5-point favorite?
That's a little high. I would set the line at like Pittsburgh by 1 or 2. Well, it's not like way off my expectations. But look, it's funny reading the coverage in the Pittsburgh papers about this game and then sort of seeing how I think a lot of Tennessee fans have kind of looked at this game. Like, and both sides are like, well, you got to win this game.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be easy for either side. But, Pittsburgh, a lot of the talk in Pittsburgh is like, oh, what a disaster of a program, which is true. But Tennessee fans will point out, well, if you go strictly by recruiting rankings, we have more talent than you.
Right.
I think Pittsburgh is an established program. If Narduzzi he's done a really good job there, I think. And I think it's a tough place to win a lot. They've had a lot of close losses that kind of have ruined some seasons. He has won the division once. He's won at Clemson once. But they haven't had – they've been a lot of like 7-5, 6-6 – but again, like they've recruited – like they've got pros.
They're a good team.
Yeah, and they played defense. And if this quarterback has taken – and I don't know, it's UMass. He lit up UMass. Great. But if he has taken a step – I mean, this Tennessee defense is going to have a much bigger challenge than it did, obviously, last week.
Well, for sure.
And he could be, like, in theory, he could be one of the better quarterbacks they see this year. Now, not as good as the top guys are going to see, but if you go through their whole schedule, this could be one of the better quarterbacks they see.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing that stands out to me about Pittsburgh, and this has been the case for a long time now, I say a long time. They did have Nathan Peterman as their quarterback at one point. But yeah, they're not going to beat themselves, right? Like you don't see Pittsburgh very often have 4 turnovers in a game or make the stupid mistakes or be penalized 19 times in one game like Eddie George and company were the other day.
Jeez.
There's a lot of penalties for TSU
tough.
The other day. But what my point is, you're going to have to play a clean game if you're Tennessee to win. And you're not going to have a team like Bowling Green on the other side fumbling all over themselves to get anything going. Like, it's going to require on both sides of the ball a higher level of execution than we saw a week ago. Now, I was honestly, and it's Bowling Green, so you don't learn much, but Tennessee's defense, just from a aesthetical point of view last week, they looked fine. I mean, they were moving around well, but again, it's Bowling Green. They were such an advantage on the line that I don't know what you take away from that. Now, you still should have an advantage on the line of scrimmage if you're Tennessee against Pittsburgh. Now, it's not going to be as pronounced of an advantage, but Tennessee, you still have some pretty good athletes on the other side of the ball. You should be able to generate some pressure. Can they do that against a much stiffer challenge against Pittsburgh? And that's going to be very interesting to see.
Yeah, I think Tyler Barron is a huge player in this game for Tennessee. He's one of those guys who really stood out to me.
Yep.
And Byron Young coming back would be helpful. I don't really know. I don't know the likelihood of that. But I think they need as much, as much pressure as they can get. You need a guy like Elijah Simmons to be great. I mean, Pittsburgh has I think a good offensive line. It's not like loaded with superstars, but again, it's just it's one of those programs that has been in place for several years. There's a certain stability, certain level of development of players. That it's just going to be a pretty big step up here.
Coming up next, we'll continue the conversation on the Vols and look ahead at Joe Milton and the game coming up for him against Pittsburgh. How big of a game is this for Milton? How quick could the trigger be on maybe replacing him at quarterback? All that coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Your favorite game, Silly Underdog Picks, is back. Get your friends or family and play as a group and sign up to play today. Pick the 3 football underdog teams you think will win each week for a chance to win weekly prizes like a pair of tickets to a sporting event or to a concert in Nashville. Go to thegamenashville.com or the ESPN The Game Nashville mobile app to sign up and play now. Silly Underdog Picks is presented by Volunteer Hose and gasket. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5. The Game, presented by Volunteer State Bank, conveniently serving Middle Tennessee with 13 locations. Member FDIC, equal housing lender. Going to have John Glennon from Broadway Sports join us at 8 o'clock to begin the next hour, so looking forward to that conversation with him. We'll look ahead to the Titans coming up in Week 1 against the Cardinals with John. Right now talking Vols and the game against Pittsburgh coming up this weekend. And, Joe, this really is a swing game for the Vols. You talk about the season predictions and whether or not they're going to finish 5-7 or 6-6 or 7-5, somewhere in that neighborhood is where most publications had Tennessee heading into the season. And some of the big differences in those predictions were this game against Pittsburgh. There were a lot of people that picked Tennessee to win this game against Pittsburgh. There were several that picked Pittsburgh to win this game. So when you start to talk about swing games for Josh Heupel in year one and some of those toss-up games that we talked about, this one may be near the top of the list in terms of you got to win this game if you're going to find a way to get to 6 and try to be bowl eligible, whatever bowl eligible would mean for Tennessee this year in year one for Josh Heupel.
Yeah, well, and that's a good point too. I've heard some interesting things about the whole bowl eligibility thing in Tennessee. I kind of thought that there would be an announcement by now that they were going to self-impose a ban. Not totally sure that they will. Not totally sure if they don't that it's a good idea. But we'll see how it plays out. But as of now,
nothing yet.
They're chasing. As of now, they're chasing a bowl game. So
only need 5 more wins.
That's right, and I agree. This is absolutely a swing game. And it's so much. It's also a momentum game. Just you just follow the path along. If you can find a way, and that's really what it is. Like, you have to find a way to grind out a win here. It's going to be, I think, a close game. I'll be very surprised if it's not a close game. If you can get this win, you can beat Tennessee Tech. You're 3-0 going to Gainesville, and then who knows? Probably won't go well for you there, but that would be in a couple weeks. That would be a fun week. Going into Tennessee, Florida, undefeated team. And, if you lose this game, it's a totally beyond the bottom line and the adding up the wins. It's just such a different feel, momentum. And momentum within a season is also
sure.
Recruiting momentum too. This is a huge game.
Well, it's a huge game, and let's be honest, a lot of the result in this game is going to come down to quarterback play for Tennessee. And Joe Milton, I would assume, going to be the starter again for Tennessee as they take on Pittsburgh this weekend. And look, the first couple of drives last week against Bowling Green looked really good, and they moved the ball on the ground. He made good decisions in the passing game, and then it really kind of fell off from there in the passing game. There were some drops involved. Jalen Hyatt's got to catch the ball when they throw the ball his way, but Joe Milton with some big misses in that game against Bowling Green. And you talked about the defense and what Pat Darduzzi brings to the table on that front. There's going to be a lot of blitzes. There's going to be quick decisions that Joe Milton is going to have to make, and he's going to have to play a lot better and a lot more consistently than he did last week for Tennessee to win. So this is a huge game for Joe Milton, and I'm interested, number one, to see if he can respond and if he plays better, but number two, if he doesn't, and it looks more of the same that we saw last week, how patient is Josh Heupel? We had David Ubben on last Friday, and he said he thinks, that Milton's not really in danger of losing his job right now and that they're going to stick with Joe Milton. I'm interested to see if they can't get anything going in the passing game against Pittsburgh, how long do you wait if you're Josh Heupel to maybe try a Hendon Hooker or try a Harrison Bailey and throw one of those 2 other quarterbacks in there?
Yeah, look, this is a game. It's a big one to try to get, to the type of season you want to get. Again, to have the momentum, all these things, it's very important. So I know it's early in the season, but just because you switch quarterbacks does not mean that you now have just abandoned Joe Milton altogether.
Right.
I don't. If they have a bad half or close to a bad half of offensive football with Joe Milton against Pittsburgh, I think it's very possible that you could see, I would assume, Hendon Hooker, just based on Hooker being ahead of Bailey in the spring, Hooker being the guy who came out, in garbage time last week. Yeah, I don't think that's like a non-starter right now. I understand the idea. Like, I think if it happened, then it would be okay. And now maybe it's, you know what, Joe had a tough day. He's our starter next week. Or maybe it's, it's still open. We'll see. We'll tell you next week who's starting against Tennessee Tech. That's one of those games. Although you thought Bowling Green was one of those games. But I was going to say it's one of those games where you could get multiple guys on the field. I feel like in Bowling Green, the reason they didn't do that is because they needed Milton to, like, have a good series. I mean,
they were trying to get him figured out.
Trying to get him going. And after the first two series, he never really did until the end. But you could be in the Tennessee Tech game looking at multiple guys. If that's how it goes, and if Joe Milton plays well this week against that defense, then I think that helps cement him.
Well, I think he does too, and it's a totally different challenge this week too. Not only from just the obvious of a quality of competition, because that's a major step up from Bowling Green, but the way you're going to have to attack this defense is different too. I mean, it was pretty obvious last week they could run the ball whenever they wanted to against Bowling Green, and I'm interested to see if they can have success against Pittsburgh in that way as well. Obviously not running for 300 yards, but can they run the ball with any level of effectiveness? But other than that, I mean, Joe Milton could stand back there last week and just wait for his receivers to run down the field, and you're probably not going to be able to do that against this team. So that's going to require you to go through your reads quickly and to go through your progressions quickly. And that was my biggest concern from last week is I did not feel like Joe Milton did a very good job of going through his progressions. And if you don't do that this week against Pittsburgh and you don't get better in that area, it's going to be a tough day offensively for Tennessee. He's got to find a way this week to, all right, first option's not there, second option's not there, throw the ball away or give it down to your dump off or whatever you got to do there. But the processing information that you see and information that is going to be disguised at times and information that maybe you don't even recognize, that's going to be a very big challenge for Joe Milton this week.
Yeah, look, I think the first two drives they had, again, very scripted, and there was a lot of there's a lot of screen stuff going on. Get the ball out fast. Just get a little confidence, pitch and catch. Let your receivers run with the ball. I mean, I'd look for more of that. But I don't think there's any question that when you're in obvious passing situations, that's where it really was bad last week, was when it was clear, it's going to be a drop-back situation, it's 3rd and 8, whatever it is. That's where Bowling Green was able to muck things up enough, although at times they didn't, and Milton just missed some stuff.
Yep.
Pittsburgh's going to muck things up. Like you said, disguise things, and they'll make it hard on him. But he's got to throw the ball quickly and with conviction, or get out of the pocket quicker than he did. I think the problem with him, and this was at Michigan too, at times is just not quite getting out of there fast enough. And he's got to be a threat in this game with his legs, and I think a lot of design QB run stuff is a part of it too. As much as you don't want to endanger your quarterback, I mean, that's a big – I mean, he's big enough that he punishes guys. It's like we talk about Derrick Henry, I mean, this guy's almost 252. You don't necessarily want to make a living on that, but I think the QB run aspect of it is a big key to beating Pittsburgh, and that means at times that he's got to be a little bit quicker at deciding to pull it down.
Well, and also when you do get your shots down the field, can you have a little touch? Like, can you hit them? Because I still think, Jalen Hyatt can get open against Alabama. So Jalen Hyatt can get open against Pittsburgh. I have full confidence that he can get open. I mean, they're going to take some deep shots in this game if their line can protect well enough. Can you hit on some of those deep shots? I mean, when we know he's got the arm to do it, can you find some touch on these passes? Because it's one thing to have the arm, and the defense is going to have to respect that to some level when you've got arm strength that Joe Milton possesses. But if you can never complete anything down the field, I don't know how worried about it you are if you're a Pittsburgh defense.
Yeah, you gotta just a little bit. It's a flat. I mean, it's a rocket arm, but it's a little bit of a flat, deep ball. You gotta put a little bit more loft on it. Hey, Pittsburgh lost 3 or 4 starters from last year, so yeah, you can make plays on them. You have to trigger it much quicker this week. By the way, Bob Williams on Twitter is surprised we didn't give him any grief over Washington's all-time worst program loss ever. We made some fun of that yesterday, didn't we? Yeah.
Just a little bit.
We'll make fun of you again, Bob.
It's a tough one.
Thanks for reminding us, Bob. I was going to forget about that today.
Adam in Portland on the text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. I think Joe Milton did everything in the post-game interview except call himself Joe Milton in the third person. He's way too overconfident, needs to be more humble and learn to throw the ball away. Immaturity was a problem with him at Michigan, and that needs to change at Tennessee.
I completely don't understand this at all. I was sitting right there. He said one thing that it sounded braggy, which was, like, I can do it all, so whatever it is. He said, I played good. I got to look at the film, got to improve, got to do this better. That I mean, he was not like braggy in the post. That was that one quote. And the Michigan, that would be new information for me on immaturity. He was like a team leader. He didn't play well, and he got out of there when he got passed over. So I guess you could look at what he, like, leaving Michigan is immature, I guess. I mean, I don't know. Like, the transfer portal's got about 10,000 people in it right now. So it's kind of where we are, with the sport. But I don't think you're right about those things.
Coming up next, we'll kick off our first set of division previews. Look ahead to the AFC North. We'll look ahead at 2 divisions per day leading up to week 1 of the NFL this week. We start with the AFC North coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game, presented by Volunteer State Bank. Visit volstatebank.com to learn more about our free Kasasa checking account. Volunteer State Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Michelle Knezovic here with you on this Tuesday morning in Nashville, Tennessee. Week 1 almost here, just a couple of days away from the official beginning of the NFL season, with Tampa Bay taking on Dallas. And for the rest of this week, we'll be looking at a couple of divisions per day in anticipation of Week 1. Starting at today, we begin, Joe Rexrode, with the AFC North, a division which may be the best division in all of the AFC. From top to bottom, you have the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Baltimore Ravens, the Cleveland Browns, and the Cincinnati Bengals as well, with Joe Burrow hopefully able to remain healthy this year. We'll see what happens on that front. So when you factor in this division, and we'll get to the prediction part of this here in just a few minutes, who's the most intriguing team to you this year? A lot of people down on the Pittsburgh Steelers this year. We've talked about that before on the show. Sometimes you do that at your own peril, underestimating the Pittsburgh Steelers and Mike Tomlin. Obviously a lot of love for the Cleveland Browns, and you still have Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens floating around as well. So with all that being said, which of these 4 teams in the AFC North intrigues you the most as we head into the 2021 NFL regular season?
See, intrigues is it's an interesting question. That's
why I asked it.
Yeah, I'm bullish on the Browns. I think they have a really good roster. And honestly, I even feel like with them, like, because now he's had some mishaps and bounced around, and there's a little bit more realistic view of him. I actually think Clowney might be okay for them, like, help them a little bit. I like their draft. I love their offensive skill, their offensive line, their coaching. But I might be more intrigued by the Steelers, because I feel like a lot of people are down on them. I mean, you mentioned it yesterday. They were 11-0 last year at one point. And I think they're very intriguing. I think Najee Harris is intriguing. I still think they have a good defense. And a lot of it comes down to how much Big Ben has left in him. But I think it's really a lot of people are picking them to miss the playoffs. And, boy, that's just a franchise that, do that at your own peril, because they have a – I mean, really, the Steelers are really amazing, and to me, even more so than, like, the Patriots. I know they haven't had the success of the past 20 years, but it's like they actually have a brand and a style of football that, like, goes back 40 years, you know? And it's organizational there, too. And they've been able to have incredible continuity and stability with coaches. It's so non-NFL. And Mike Tomlin is really good. And so I think that's the most intriguing team to me. I would pick them right now not to make the playoffs, and yet I'm like, you sure about that? It's still, I mean, if you don't have what you need at quarterback, I mean, the limitations are there. But just remember 2 years ago, that team should have gone like 3-13, and given their quarterback situation, and they found a way.
Well, hey, man, they've got Dwayne Haskins in there now too. So if things don't go well with Big Ben,
that's true.
you can just flip that thing around. Quarterback of the future.
Well, and Dwayne Haskins, I haven't been all that impressed with him, obviously, but he's playing for a terrible team, and obviously he had some issues of immaturity or whatever, but you could do worse than having him next. I mean, there's some potential there.
Michelle, everybody's underestimating your Steelers this year. Feels like there's a lot of popular picks out there for the Steelers to miss the playoffs.
You know what? I forgot that I told you guys I was a Steelers fan. I was like, I wonder if they're going to remember I'm a Steelers fan.
Oh, I remember.
And Joe, listening to you say what an elite franchise we are, it just warms my heart.
Go.
It is great to be a Steelers fan.
Is it?
The terrible towels.
Yes.
I'm also
very popular team here in Nashville.
I'm also excited to see my guy Benny Snell this year. He produced a pretty solid performance last year. Kentucky guy, obviously. But here's the thing. I don't feel very confident in them this year. If we had like 2018 Big Ben, wouldn't that just be great with this team? He's getting up there. But, I mean, hey, I'm not going to knock him. But also, I feel like a traitor for saying I am really excited to see the Browns this year because my guy OBJ will be back out there. He's been rehabbing hard. And who doesn't love a nice catch from him? I feel like he always has the best highlights out there. And I'm excited to see him back on the field.
We'll see if he can stay there.
Drafted him.
Did you?
Yeah, drafted him and Peoples-Jones and Kareem Hunt. So if fantasy's
lot riding on the Browns.
I'm a Brownie fan all the way.
So with that in mind, Joe Rexrode, the AFC North, again, potentially the best division in the AFC. We'll see how that plays out on the field this year. Who do you have winning the AFC North this year?
I'm going with the Browns. Absolutely. I'm going with the Browns. And I think the Ravens are close. The Ravens have changed a lot on D. I still think they look good on D. Losing Dobbins is tough.
That's tough.
Bateman's hurt. That stuff is not great. But I still think they're going to be very good. And I think they're definitely a playoff team. But I can't pick them over the Browns.
What a time we've gotten to.
Yeah.
Browns just can't overlook them. That's right. I've got the Ravens winning the AFC North.
Really?
I think they'll win it this year. Look, I just think their defense is going to be really good still. I think offensively they'll do enough. Lamar Jackson is gifted enough where they'll be able to score. And I like the Browns. I think they're a playoff team. I'm not as high on the Browns as everybody else is. So give me the Ravens, the Browns at number 2, the Steelers at number 3, and the Cincinnati Bengals, although improved this year, at number 4.
Yeah, that's the thing. The everyone's going to pick the Bengals last, and they should. But there are some things to like about them. It's so much of it comes down to Burrow being healthy, being upright. You could argue that they should have done more and invested more in that. But boy, I can't be mad at picking Jamar Chase, and I think Burrow to Chase in this league.
It's going to be pretty good.
Could be pretty good.
They've got T. Higgins there, Boyd there. They've got a really good wide receiver core.
Yeah. Titans fans can recall.
They're very well aware.
A pretty good Titans team last year. Now, not a good Titans defense, but still. They just they couldn't deal with it.
So do the Steelers make the playoffs?
I'm going to say no, but I feel like that's a mistake. But I made plenty of mistakes, so I'll stick with that and say no.
I'm going to say no as well, but I think they're going to be right there on the edge. I just,
yeah,
like
they're
Big Ben,
definitely going to be close.
He couldn't throw the ball down the field last year.
Yeah.
Like, you've got to be able to throw the ball down the field. But now, against the Titans, he didn't really have to. He threw like a 6-yard route, and his receivers would take it. And every time he did try to throw it down the field, to your point, Jayon Brown was right there.
Yeah, he was picked. It was Jonathan Joseph got replaced in the starting lineup in that game.
Yeah.
By Ty Smith?
Ty Smith, I think, yeah.
It was Ty Smith.
Yeah.
And so he just went at Ty Smith over and over and over and over again. And then they put Joseph in, and then he went at him over and over again. So he can still
throw the ball that side of the field every time.
Yeah, he can still spray it around accurately. There's a little bit. It's kind of like Phillip Rivers last year to me. He'll dink you to death. But is that enough? In this conference is tough. Again, if the Chargers are close to what people think, if the Patriots are going to reemerge here with Mac Jones and I think a good defense, if the Dolphins are going to be good, which they just might be, you look at the spots in this conference and they are scarce.
Let's go to our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. Andrew texting in, the Steelers surprise everyone and win the division outright.
That would be a surprise.
So winning the division outright. Now, they did win the division last year. But
yeah, and yet they're like an afterthought.
Yeah, I know.
Which, I get mostly. They should be. They should not be picked to win the division. Again, they're the most intriguing
just look
team.
At Mike
they
Tomlin,
are the most
though.
intriguing team.
He's a good coach, man.
Very good.
When we come back, we'll switch gears and look at the NFC North. What is it going to look like on the NFC side of things? in a very intriguing division as well. That coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game, brought to you by Volunteer State Bank. Real people, real solutions right here. Member FDIC, equal housing lender. We'll be joined by John Glennon from Broadway Sports to begin the 8 o'clock hour. We'll look ahead to the Titans and the Cardinals in Week 1 coming up with John here in about 13 minutes or so looking forward to that conversation. Todd Knezevic on Periscope says the AFC North is always the Steelers division to win.
Guys, that's my dad. That's my dad.
There you go.
Nice. I was going to say, I know
Hey,
that
Dad.
name.
I know the name.
Hi, Dad. So we got some
He's
Steelers.
a big Steelers fan. He went when they won the Super Bowl a couple years ago, like diehard Steelers.
Yeah.
He will always root for them.
Nice. Well, hey, they are the best franchise.
In that division.
Yeah, in that division.
Yes.
Are they the best franchise in NFL history?
I think that's arguable.
I mean, they're on the list, yeah.
Who would you say is the best?
I don't even know off the top of my head.
Well, I mean, you've got them.
The Patriots
you've got
now
the
have
Patriots.
entered the discussion for 20 years.
I mean, depends on how you view it, too. I mean, a lot of people say the Cowboys. They're the most popular. A lot of people say the Packers. It just kind of depends on how you view it.
I knew you'd
But they're on the list.
I knew you'd throw the Packers in
Well, they're on the list.
I knew he would too, Joe.
Some would say the Lions.
Yeah, some would say the Lions.
The Lions are top of the list, Joe.
Lions
Correct.
were awesome in the 50s.
Sure they
A mighty team that will not yield. There we go. Hey, that's perfect timing.
It is perfect timing because now we look ahead at the NFC North here today on the show as well. And as you mentioned, the Detroit Lions in the division, the Green Bay Packers as well, the Chicago Bears, and the Minnesota Vikings. I think 4 really intriguing teams for different reasons. I mean, the Lions, I'm really looking forward to watching me some Dan Campbell this year and seeing how that goes. Obviously, the quarterback situation in Chicago with Andy Dalton and Justin Fields. Minnesota, you've got Kirk Cousins. You've got 2 really good receivers in Adam Thielen and Justin Jefferson, a great running back in Dalvin Cook, and what most people believe is going to be a revamped defense this year that should be very good. And then, of course, you have what many people are considering the last dance for Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, and the Green Bay Packers. So lots of different storylines in this division. We'll get to the predictions here in just a second. Joe Rexrode, I ask you the same question I asked you about the AFC North. Which team intrigues you the most of the 4 options I've just thrown out there?
Yeah, definitely Chicago. And it's just because of the quarterback situation. And the Bears are just, they're not that far removed from being a dominant defensive football team that was just, a quarterback away or a kicker, an inch away inside the post. And who knows that particular year what they could have done. But they intrigue me the most. They have not had a quarterback of consequence for a long time. They still got to a Super Bowl with Rex Grossman.
Which is really one of the greatest accomplishments in modern-day NFL history.
It's pretty impressive. Now, I should say, Jay Cutler was a good player. He was a good quarterback for the Bears for a few years.
He was.
But you want better than that. And I think Justin Fields could be better than that at some point. But what about this year when he inevitably becomes the starter, whenever that is?
Everybody just writing off Andy Dalton.
Yeah, well, Andy Dalton is a solid QB too.
Got a Super Bowl MVP in that quarterback room, writing off Nick Foles.
Yeah, that's right. Wait, Foles is still there?
I think so. Unless I missed something.
Why did I have a dream that Foles got traded?
No, he's still there.
Okay. Why did I think that Foles got traded? I guess I don't have.
Maybe you did have a dream.
I don't know, man. Sorry, Nick.
You want to break some news?
No, that's a lot of money in. Yeah. It's a lot of money in quarterback.
That's
in
a lot.
Quarterback room, boy. But they are the most intriguing. And I look forward to when Justin Fields plays because saw a little glimpse of him here. Titans did a good job, but he had that nice 2-minute drive. I'm sure it'll be like all the rookie quarterbacks, some rookie moments, but they're interesting because I think they actually could be a dark horse playoff team if it all came together for them. I think they have enough good players, but we'll see. But I think that there's 2 teams that should be in the playoffs, not named the Bears, in this division.
Well, and that's why I think the Vikings might be the most intriguing one to me because, you've got 2 of the top at least 20, 25, 30 receivers. Like Adam Thielen's still a pretty good player when he can stay healthy. Now, him staying healthy has been a bit of an issue the last couple of years, but when he's healthy, a good player. Justin Jefferson, I think, is going to be a stud in Minnesota for a long time. And then Dalvin Cook, who finished second last year in rushing behind Derrick Henry, is a monster coming out of the backfield, as the Titans found out firsthand last year. There's a lot of really good pieces that they have offensively. I think their defense and the pass rush is going to be better this year. They locked up Harrison Smith to a long-term contract as well at safety. So there's a lot to like about Minnesota. The question just keeps coming back to, all right, is Kirk Cousins good enough to win at a high level? I think he's a good quarterback. I think he's really accurate when he's on. Can he elevate himself? And more importantly, can he elevate others around him to a high enough level where they can legitimately be a threat in this division? Because it's going to require them to score a whole lot of points with Aaron Rodgers in this division.
Well, Kirk Cousins, I know Kirk Cousins' game well. How long has it been? 14 freaking years. He's if you protect him, if he can stand in the pocket, then
which was a problem last year.
Yeah, which was a big problem. So that to me is what it comes down to. I don't know that he's like I don't think Kirk Cousins is going to all of a sudden change as a player.
No.
I think he's good. He's a good quarterback. Agree with you. I mean, it's not, and again, it's not like he's never performed a big year. I know the Monday Night Football record is bad, but he did go beat Drew Brees with his arm in the playoffs, in the Superdome. So the guy has performed in big moments, but if he doesn't get protection and he has to improvise and he gets off schedule, he gets off his mark at all, I mean, he's just not that guy. He's not the guy who's going to be able to make things happen with his feet and turn broken plays into big plays. He's got to be in a nice, controlled environment. So if they can do that for him, I mean, the weapons are good. I agree with you. I think the defense is going to take a step forward this year. They look like one of those teams that has that bounce back a little bit in a different way, but a little bit like the Chargers.
Yep.
In terms of, like, it's a quality roster. They allow bad luck and close losses, and they could be one of those teams that sees that rubber band effect this year.
Well, I still think they're the biggest threat to Green Bay in the division, regardless of what happens. I mean, unless Justin Fields comes in and is just otherworldly good. I still think that Chicago has some work to do. So I would say Minnesota is the biggest threat to Green Bay in the division. With that being said, I think Green Bay wins the division again. It's relatively easy towards the back part of the season, and they're going to be a really good team once again this year. Green Bay at number 1. I've got Minnesota at 2, Chicago at 3, and Detroit at 4.
I mean, we haven't even talked about the Lions.
That's true.
We did a
Jared Goff.
Yeah, well, we did a fantasy sleeper thing where all of us who cover various teams put out we did sleepers and breakout stars. In fact, I think this is the breakout player. Do you know who it is for the Lions?
No.
Khalif Raymond.
Oh, all right.
Which is one
Good luck with that.
tells you where the Lions are. But I still think it's also pretty cool for him.
Sure.
I mean, he's going to be a starter and heavy rotation receiver for the Detroit Lions.
Yeah.
So, again, good for him.
Not great for the Lions.
Not great for them. But will they be the worst team in the league? Do they have a shot at being the worst team in the league?
They've got a chance. Yeah. I think they've got a chance. I would still probably give the edge to Houston. But they're, in every list, they're right there together. They're going to be bad.
Is there a third real strong contender? I guess with Jacksonville, you feel like Trevor Lawrence will lift them a little bit beyond that neighborhood, right?
Yeah. I mean, Carolina could be, depending on whether or not Sam Darnold works out, Carolina could be pretty bad.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I mean, you would assume that with McCaffrey back and healthy and everything that would mean something, right?
Yeah.
Going first in all the fantasy drafts.
He is.
But, yeah, I don't know about Darnold. But I don't know. They're not going to be that. They're not going to be Lions.
They're not going to be Lions
they're
bad.
Be Texans bad. I think the
Jets could still be pretty bad too.
Well, boy, if they're that bad, even I know he's a rookie, but with Zach Wilson in, with Davis signed, they bring in Elijah Moore.
Mm-hmm. Well,
but they're
your big defensive guy, Carl Lawson's now out for the year too.
Yeah,
so their defense is going to be terrible.
Yeah,
I take it you have Green Bay winning this division as well.
Yep, same order. Green Bay, Minnesota in the playoffs. Chicago, not bad. 9-8, 8-9 kind of team, and then I give the Lions. 3 wins.
3 wins?
I think so.
3-14.
3-14.
All right, I can see
think
that.
The Texans. I think I picked the Texans to go 2-15. So I guess there you go.
There you go, right there with each other. Really excited to see Dan Campbell after those wins this year too. It's going to be good stuff. A rare sight, but it'll be good stuff.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Will he be more entertaining after wins or losses?
I don't know. I mean, he's going to get his fair share at practice at the ladder.
We'll see plenty of examples.
That's correct. When we come back, we'll look ahead to Week 1 for the Titans against Arizona. We'll be joined by our good friend John Glennon from Broadway Sports. That's coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Welcome back in, hour number 3 of Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game, brought to you by Volunteer State Bank. Real people, real solutions right here. Member FDIC, equal housing lender. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Michelle Knezovic here with you on this Tuesday morning in Nashville, Tennessee. Week 1 for the Titans is almost here, and to help us talk more about that, we go to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, and welcome in our good friend John Glennon from Broadway Sports. John, what's going on, brother? How we doing?
I am doing well. How are you guys doing this morning?
We are doing wonderful. Appreciate you taking time to join us. And, John, obviously a lot to get to with the Titans coming up for Week 1. I want to start, though, with the right tackle position. Obviously, Tyson Brylow, David Quesenberry, Kendall Lamb, all involved in a competition for the right tackle spot at this moment. Ben Jones and Nate Davis have missed some time as of late. How do you think this right tackle position is going to shake out? Who starts for the Titans coming up on Sunday against Arizona at that spot?
You know, I think in a perfect world, I think the Titans would kind of prefer either Lamb or Sambrello in there. Now, you know, I think it may well wind up being Quesenberry, but here's my thinking on this. You know, Quesenberry has been getting by far the most snaps in camp because he's been the healthiest, the most durable and so forth, whereas Sambrello and Kendall Lamb have both been dealing with injuries. So to me, if Quesenberry was definitely the guy and he's been getting all those snaps, Mike Vrabel would have had no, qualms about saying Quesenberry is my starter yesterday. But he's still saying that position is sort of up for grabs. So again, I say if Sambrello or Lamb is healthy enough, I think they get the nod. But at this point, I still think they're working their way towards 100%. So I will say the big Q man winds up starting there on in game 1 anyway.
Yeah, no, and that's a good point because I think Vrabel probably would have just answered, he's the right tackle. It sounds like he would like there to be an increased competition this week and see if someone else could potentially get in there. But Quesenberry has been, even last year, John, right? I mean, he, as the third left tackle, I thought he was fine. I mean, I didn't see a huge difference between him and Sambrello, but I also wasn't grading the film snap after snap like you and Pro Football Focus like to do. So,
yeah. I think so, but I think we clearly saw a differentiation in Mike Vrabel's mind too. That when both were completely healthy, that Sambrello was the guy. Sambrello was the first to fill in for Luan. Quesenberry was next after that. So that's the way I think it'll go. If Sambrello or Lamb are a little healthier, may lean that way, and so even if it's not this first week, I think that may go in that direction down the line here a bit.
I'm watching Julio Jones and A.J. Brown. We didn't have a lot of time out there yesterday, but I thought they looked fast and healthy. What do you think about that? What do you think about just the receiver rotation and do you think those guys are going to be full go, ready to kind of unveil what this offense is supposed to be right away Sunday?
I think so. Julio Jones in recent years, he hasn't been a big training camp guy in Atlanta. I think he's reached the point, his veteran status, to the point that, he doesn't need to be out there every snap. What is a concern, of course, is that this is a new system for Julio Jones. This is a new quarterback for Julio Jones, and there's not been much time to kind of get things down pat with either Ryan Tannehill or the system. So that is a bit of a concern in my mind. But as far as health, I think he's going to be okay. I think he's at the point, as I say, in his career where, he can kind of manage himself during practice and say, okay, I'm ready to go. And A.J. Brown, I think similar, again, as you said, they both looked good in the brief time that we saw about them yesterday. As far as the rotation of receivers, maybe the only mild surprise to me when they put out the unofficial depth chart yesterday was that Chester Rogers is kind of the tentative slot starter as opposed to Josh Reynolds. But honestly, that doesn't surprise me too much because Chester Rogers is a much better slot guy. That's what he's played almost solely the the last couple of years. Josh Reynolds has played there, a bit, but that's not definitely his position. So I think they're putting Chester Rogers in a spot where he's very comfortable, where he will benefit the offense, and Josh Reynolds, will rotate in with the other guys as well. And I'm not sure we're going to see a ton, of Julio Jones snaps. Maybe game one, maybe not as much as we might see, a few games down the line. So Josh Reynolds can probably help in that type of situation as well.
John Glennon for Broadway Sports on the line with us, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. So, John, with that in mind, you covered this Titans team for a long time, and there have been some lean years, and there have been some years with pretty high expectations. Obviously, a ton of hype around this Titans team with Julio Jones joining the fold as well. When's the last time you think a Titans team had this high of expectations heading into a season? And with that in mind, what do you think are fair expectations for this Titans team as they kick things off for real coming up on Sunday?
Yeah, it's been a while. I think it's fair to say that last year there were pretty solid, expectations as well. I think people expected the defense to be better last year, and honestly, I think, I think people expected a pretty good season from the Titans. But yeah, I think it's fair certainly to say this Titans team should be the favorite to win the division yet again. I think the quarterback situation is the big difference between them and the Indianapolis Colts, and unless Carson Wentz returns to yesteryear form. So I think that's a reasonable expectation. And once you're in the playoffs, who knows what's going to happen after that. I don't think they're, at this stage on the same plane as the Chiefs or, they're close in that next tier as well. But I think it's fair to have high expectations for this group. At the same time, there are questions. As we mentioned, this is a new offensive coordinator. This is an offense that hasn't had much practice, with one another in this entire training camp. And then defensively, it's a young group of cornerbacks, talented bunch, but still very young. We still don't know the pass rush for sure, what it's going to be like. There are some encouraging things that we saw in the preseason, but there are still some questions to be answered about the Titans, despite the fact I think we should consider them, at the very least, the AFC South favorites.
So this defense, John, what do you think is, I guess, the most encouraging thing you saw in the preseason, and how it will relate to this Sunday and Sundays moving forward, and what is, I guess, maybe your biggest question mark after camp?
Yeah, I would say in terms of a question mark on defense, again, it's the I would say it's the corner situation primarily. We know Jack Rabbit Jenkins is a veteran, a solid performer. He's going to do a good job, I think, for the Titans. After that, you got a lot of question marks. Christian Fulton, a talented corner, no doubt, but really played very little last year. We'll have to see what he's going to do. And of course, Caleb Farley, again, extremely talented. We know that, but it's going to take some time before he's kind of NFL ready to play a lot of snaps on a regular basis. So that area is certainly going to be tested. But in terms of encouragement, for the defense, I think you had to love what you saw in terms of aggressiveness of this group, and in terms of how they did on third downs as well. We all know what a disaster third downs were for the Titans last year. And again, this is preseason. They were not facing a number one quarterback, but just to see a more aggressive unit in general, a team that seemed to, communicate better out there, and to have, such a good record on third downs. I mean, I want to say they only gave up like 7 first downs on maybe over 30 third down attempts. I mean, it was pretty impressive. And again, preseason, but that to me was a very encouraging sign. Now, can they carry that over into the regular season?
John, is there anything that Derrick Henry could do this year to surprise you, or is that ship sailed already?
If he comes out blocking for Kari Blasingame, that would be a big, solid surprise.
50 yards.
I guess the only thing that could surprise at this point for Derrick Henry is if he became more of a force in the passing game. And, Joe, you know this too. Every single practice out there, Derrick Henry, almost in whatever spare time he has, he's catching passes. Tony Dews, the running backs coach, when they have a little spare moment, he's throwing passes at him, whether Derrick Henry is running, whether he's just, stationary. It's something he constantly works at because that's not, something that comes naturally to him. I don't know if he will ever be, huge in that department because he's not a little scat back. It usually takes him a few, strides to get going, and he doesn't have that immediate quick cut that you might need in the passing game. But if they could work him in a little bit more, get him successful in screens and things like that, maybe that adds a whole new level to Derrick Henry's game.
I mean, I want to see Derrick Henry on like a wheel route, catch like a 50-yard pass. And why
keep
not?
going, man. Yeah.
Why not?
Hey,
give it a shot.
That's right. We saw Blossomgame do that, right, at least once last year. So it's not out of the question.
All right, so you went on the conspiracy that was clearly concocted to try to make it so I don't win the Titans Media Fantasy League, second year in a row. You can admit it.
I was not because you were falling asleep at the late hour of 9 o'clock last night. Is that what you're talking about, old man?
I clicked on that website at 9 o'clock, and my pick had been picked for me.
He's really upset about it this morning, John.
Well, did you see how many F-bombs I typed into the message? I mean, it was...
There was a significant... You were vrabling. You were channeling your inner vrabel. There was no doubt. But I got to say, I was all set to give you the business this morning about your team, and I looked again. I kind of like your team. Despite the fact that you were auto-picked there right away, but pretty solid group. I'm having trouble giving you the business. I might, you may finish within the first 10 or the top 10 of this fantasy group anyway.
Yeah, no, thanks. Well, I mean, you got to treat the defending champ with some respect. I'm glad to know you're so obsessed that you're already checking out my team this morning.
Wow.
I feel
well,
like
I was all set to take a few stabs at you. I'm like, Rexrode did pretty well for himself.
All right, okay.
Good on him.
That's good. It's a good way to disarm me.
That's right. He's just buttering you up before he just eviscerates you in fantasy football this year. It's going to be awesome to see. John, appreciate you taking time to join us this morning. Looking forward to your coverage at Broadway Sports for the Titans this year, and I appreciate you once again joining us this morning.
Okay, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. John Glennon from Broadway Sports, our guest here on Robby and Rexrode, and a fantasy football opponent for Joe Rexrode as well.
I actually feel better about my team now. He's probably lying, but still. I needed a little pick-me-up.
We'll come back. We'll react a little bit to what John Glennon had to say there. Also get to some breaking Titans news on the Julio Jones front as well. All that coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game.